President Trump is working to fulfill his 2024 mandate to deport illegal aliens. He's already sealed the border. But what does ICE, that's Immigration and Customs Enforcement, do about the sea of sanctuary cities blocking deportations? I'm Hayden Ludwig. It all centers on a little-known but extremely powerful program dating back 3 decades, which empowers local law enforcement to assist ICE in deporting illegal aliens. But that program, you'll be shocked to know, is under assault by the radical left. Fighting back is retired Lieutenant Colonel Allen West, a combat veteran, former congressman, and executive director of the American Constitutional Rights Union. Colonel West, thanks for joining the Restoration Spotlight podcast.
Thanks for having me, Hayden. It's a great thing, and I think that's a great title because we have to work toward the restoration of our constitutional republic.
Well, we share the same opinion. Very kind of you to say. Let's start by talking about the border and immigration. How would you rank President Trump's handling of the border so far as of recording summer 2025?
Well, I tell you, I was just down at the border in Kinney County, Brackettville, over to Del Rio, up to Sutton County last week. And when you think about what was going on there, the high-speed chases, the tens of thousands of people that you saw under the bridge in Del Rio, all of these things, it's absolutely nothing going on, nothing happening. And I even posted a video about that, standing at that bridge there in Del Rio. So you have to give the president, if on a scale of 1 to 10, a 12 on what he has been able to accomplish. No, seriously, in just 6 months. And, you know, when everyone was talking about we need to pass new laws, no, we just needed a new president, which is what he said during the State of the Union address, a president that would honor the Constitution and restore our national sovereignty.
That's excellently said, sir. One of the programs that your organization, ACRU, has been working on relates to, we call it an obscure program, a little-known but extremely powerful program called 287G. We know this goes back to the Clinton administration, ironically, because the Biden administration and local Democrats are fighting it tooth and nail. Explain what this program is, your involvement in it, and why it's such a powerful tool in the hands of ICE and federal immigration authorities.
Well, it came about in 1996, as you articulated, and what 287G program through the Immigration and Customs Enforcement, they work with local law enforcement, and they are able to become part of a task force. They're able to then, assume some of the duties that ICE would be able to do, and they can execute those duties, and it enhances the cooperation. The most important thing that we have to do is reduce the amount of gaps and seams by which we can be exploited, and that's what the 287G program does. And it just facilitates a smoother transition of a local law enforcement agency being able to go out and detain criminal illegal immigrants or illegal immigrants, and then turn those folks over into ICE and get the deportation process going.
So one of the complaints we hear from the left, principally from your left-wing counterpart, the ACLU, the American Civil Liberties Union, is not only this is unconstitutional, it's costing taxpayers millions of dollars to house and feed these illegal aliens in jails that are typically overfull already from drug offenders and the like. What's the counter to this narrative?
Well, the counter to the narrative is that they shouldn't be here first and foremost, so it shouldn't cost us anything. And if you want to look at how much money we're paying to really take care of these illegals, that the Biden administration, auto pen administration, allowed them to come into our country with the free health care and free, education services and things of this nature, giving them 5-star hotels when we have homeless and jobless veterans, that's a great cost upon the American people. And that's really unethical. I think it's immoral. But from a constitutional perspective, when you are talking about opening our borders, that's a complete violation of Article 4, Section 4 of the United States Constitution, known as the Guarantee Clause, where it says that the federal government is supposed to guarantee to every state in the union protection from invasion. And the numbers from ICE last fall was that the estimation was over 600,000 criminal illegal immigrants. And that's just criminal illegal immigrants, 600,000 in the United States of America. Now, a couple of Saturdays ago, we, celebrated the 250th birthday of the United States Army. The entire active duty United States Army is only about 425,000.
Wow.
So that lets you know how dire this situation is.
So my understanding is ACRU's involvement is educating county sheriffs, like in Kinney County, Texas, for instance. I understand many places in Florida that not only is this constitutional, it's the right thing to do, and it's going to be effective over the rest of the Trump administration in removing your illegal alien population. Can you tell us a little bit more of the details of that plan that you guys are involved in?
Well, absolutely. And when you're talking about sheriffs, you're talking about duly elected constitutional law enforcement officers. That's a lot different from police chiefs who are many times appointed by way of a city manager, a governor, a mayor or a city council. So these sheriffs have a duty and a responsibility to honor the Constitution and to perform their duties thereof, which means safety and security, which means protecting their people from those folks that are here illegally, first and foremost, and any other type of criminal activity that's going on. So, yes, it's about an information aspect. It's about, the educating the greater population about what is happening along the border or in their local municipalities and their counties, and letting them know who is standing on the side of serving them and protecting them and who is not. Because just the same as you are providing accolades for those sheriffs that are partaking in the 287G program, we also want to shame those people that are doing the dishonorable thing and not standing up and supporting their oath to the Constitution and being law enforcement officers. And I have that problem right here in Dallas County where I reside.
Interesting. You mentioned earlier, sir, going down to the border and talking to many of these sheriffs. Tell us your experience. What did they report since Trump took over in January?
Well, the biggest problem now is how do we get these individuals, these criminal legal immigrants who were arrested originally, but still they were dispersed and released throughout the United States of America. How do we get them back down to their jurisdictions? Talk to a couple of the sheriffs. I mean, one has something like 800 different warrants, and another has some 3,000 warrants
Wow.
that he's trying to resolve. Because remember, a lot of these folks, they just saw these counties as pass-throughs, and they got to major urban population centers or even outside the state of Texas where they were dispersed. So this is now the follow-on to that. How do we make sure that we find these individuals, collect them up, we properly detain them, and turn them back over to ICE for the deportation process? And I just found it incredibly disconcerting that you have elected officials, that you have, organizations like the ACLU that are going out and threatening law enforcement officers that are doing the job of enforcing law. It is not unconstitutional to say that people that are here illegally and committing crimes should be deported. I find it, disturbing that a senator like Chris Van Hollen, who was my, office mate when I was a member of Congress up in Washington, D.C., would
Right.
travel out of the country to advocate for someone that is not a citizen of this country who had committed the crime of coming here illegally and committed crimes on top of that.
You raise a great point, too. And a huge aspect of this, of course, is the sanctuary counties and cities across the country, places where Democrats protect illegal aliens, many of them violent criminal offenders. Just recently, my organization, Restoration News, was reporting on a group of protesters who protested what they thought was an ICE raid in Pinal County, Arizona. It was actually the Pinal and Pima County Sheriff's Departments that were conducting a major drug bust. 5 million fentanyl pills from what we think is an MS-13 cartel member. We're not certain of the particular cartel here. Anyway, it goes to show you, though, that these groups on the left don't really understand what they're talking about. But you see there are hundreds of these sanctuary counties across the country. Colonel West, what do we even do to roll them back? Does the president have any kind of authority to begin to roll back these sanctuaries?
Well, of course he does. When you listen to the leftist judicial activists, they would try to say that he doesn't. And that's another disturbing point where you have people that are not interpreting the law. They're implementing an ideological agenda by way of, as I said, judicial activism, ruling from the bench and not ruling as far as the law. Sanctuary cities and sanctuary counties it's unconstitutional. And think about it, Hayden, if you and I were to have someone that had committed a crime, assault and battery, bank robbery, whatever, and we had them in our house, guess what we would be charged with? We would be charged with accessory.
Yes.
we're charged with aiding and abetting. So how is it that these sanctuary cities and sanctuary states can claim that you can't come in here and touch people that, number one, they came into the country illegally? That's a felony offense. And then on top of that, they're murderers, rapists, child sex predators, things of this nature. If I'm a constituent in, let's say, Boston, Massachusetts, I would be furious with the mayor of Boston, Michelle Wu, because she has basically said she's going to harbor criminals. And I can't understand in what beady little brain could anyone say that that's perfectly fine.
A Democrat-sized brain, clearly. And speaking of which,
Yes.
what role do you think this is going to play in the 2026 midterms?
I think it's going to play a huge role. I mean, let's just look at what happened in New York City, where the Democrats selected an avowed socialist and basically an Islamic jihadist that does not support ICE, believes that you should defund the police. So, in other words, what the person the Democrat nominee for mayor in New York City believes that let's have more criminal illegal immigrants go into the subway system and set women on fire. That's the message point that he is sending.
That's right.
So I think, without a doubt, we are seeing the demise of the Democrat Party because they've gone so far left that they are undermining our national security and our national sovereignty. And why would you stand on the side of this issue where you want to see criminal illegal immigrants and terrorists be in this country when we know that Joe Biden and Kamala Harris released special interest aliens from Iran back into our society, that now we have to be concerned about these terrorist sleeper cells?
And not only Iran, of course, across the Middle East and certainly from China. Reports that I saw, there were about 65,000 suspected Chinese nationals of males who are of military age they believe are in the country. That's not a country that you can easily slip out of without the CCP's approval and knowledge. But apparently nobody in the United States knows what they're here for. We fear the worst, of course. How realistic, as a retired Army colonel, how realistic are these national security concerns given the state of the world today with the Middle East and Eastern Europe and potentially a war over Taiwan in the near future?
Well, it's very concerning. What you just put out there, the number of 60,000 Chinese single military age males. Xi Jinping is not allowing 60,000 Chinese single military age males to leave China with a briefcase full of cash that they can pay the cartels to come into the country. That's not
That's exactly
happening.
right.
But when you put it in relative terms, 60,000, that's 4 army divisions. Or when you talk about the Trinidad, these single military age males coming out of Venezuela, these are non-state, non-uniform belligerents that we're allowing to operate in the United States of America. And instead, the leftists are going out trying to undermine the Second Amendment rights of legal law-abiding citizens. They're trying to defund the police, but they want to retain these criminal illegal immigrants, these terrorists, people on the streets that are acquiring weapons. We all saw the video in Aurora, Colorado, of them going through that apartment building. How does that happen?
Yeah, that's exactly right. And I think that's one of the reasons voters rebelled against the Biden-Harris administration last year. You know, we talked about the criminal elements that Tom Homan and President Trump are doing a very good job at removing, but that still leaves maybe 20 million, which might be a conservative number, 20 million people who are nonviolent but still broke the law coming here illegally. I want to kind of turn this conversation to an article you wrote for Town Hall a few months ago. It was excellent, about the problem of birthright citizenship. Give us the background here and help us understand why this issue really relates to former black slaves freed after the Civil War and not the children of illegal aliens, because that's the argument we hear from, well, the ACLU and among others.
Well, obviously, I mean, I'm just a dumb old paratrooper. I still jump out of airplanes and what have you. But I can barely read, and I read the 14th Amendment, and I understand the context of the 14th Amendment. The 13th Amendment, which the Democrats did not support, freed the slaves. And then, of course, the 14th Amendment comes along, and it gives the citizenship to those people that were, recently freed from slavery so that they can be citizens of the United States of America and therefore also their children so that they can have equal protection under the law. But what we have allowed the left to do is pervert this for, again, their ideological agenda that basically says anybody can come into this country illegally and you can give birth and that person is a citizen in this country and, we will grandfather you in. I served in the military overseas, and we, we saw children being born in Germany, Italy. I mean, even John McCain was born in the Panama Canal Zone. He was not a citizen of Panama. You're not a citizen of Germany. You're not a citizen of any of these other places. You're an American citizen, first and foremost. So why is it that we are doing something that no other country is doing, and that is creating a problem? And that we are violating the Constitution and the true intent of the Constitution, and we have taken this for what should have been for citizenship for blacks. And again, the Democrats didn't support the 14th Amendment, but now they're using it to further this agenda. Look, we know that there are some people that want to come to the United States of America with better opportunities. I got it. But you got to knock on the front door. And I think that we can do some things to improve our legal immigration system. But there have to be consequences and ramifications for people that seek to come into this country illegally, and definitely consequences and ramifications for those who seek to come into this country illegally for nefarious purposes and intents.
What's the pathway here, politically speaking, for removing birthright citizenship? Do we go through the Supreme Court? Does it take clarification language from, rather, legislation from Congress? What's the options here available to us?
Well, I think it's first and foremost, we should have the Supreme Court interpret the 14th Amendment because that's their job. That's the Article 3 responsibility that they have. And then I think it goes to Article 1, the legislative branch, to make sure that they codify into law what it means to be an American citizen and who can be an American citizen. Because right now, people are just throwing that around. And I remember back during the first Trump administration, you had Antifa and some other members that were marching outside the White House, and they were chanting no borders, no walls, no USA at all. So you have this anarchist, leftist, Marxist movement. And sadly, they are joining an alliance with Islamic jihadists here in this country. They're seeking to undermine this nation in every way, shape, form possible.
So going back to the 20 million or so illegal aliens, the ones who are not violent criminals but have broken the law by coming here illegally, do you think we're in a historic moment where there's maybe for the first time in decades actual appetite among voters for mass deportations, or at least for the kind of policies that would encourage self-deportation? Or are they basically here to stay? What's your opinion on that?
I think self-deportation, without a doubt, is an avenue, but we have to convey to people that there are consequences and ramifications, and if they are allowed to stay here under certain conditions, they need to have some type of retribution and payment back to the United States of America. They should not be coming here, being on social welfare programs. We should be denying that because they are not citizens, and I don't think that we should be counting them in the representation of this country, which is something that the left wants to do.
Certainly.
Is they want the census to be based upon just sheer numbers and not citizens. So I think that that's the refinement that we need to have, and let people know that, again, you can't come across, the backyard and jump over the fence and think that you're just going to have a happy life. No, there are consequences and ramifications of that. And if you violate that condition by which we're allowing you to stay here, you're immediately deported.
And let's be clear, too, counting illegal aliens and really all non-citizens in the U.S. Census every 10 years, we have one coming up in 2030, that translates to electoral college votes for the president. It translates to U.S. House of Representative seats, as you very well know, sir. There are some serious ramifications beyond even just taking care of these people on our strained social welfare system.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And I think that's why the left wants to do it. And that's why they're establishing these sanctuary cities and sanctuary states so that they can try to topple things. And you see that concentration in our major urban population centers. And then also remember that the majority of the states, maybe all of the states that Kamala Harris won, were states that did not have any sort of voter ID whatsoever.
Major. Well, as we close out here, I don't think enough people are familiar with ACRU's work. We can always have more eyeballs on it. Tell us more about the American Constitutional Rights Union.
Well, the American Constitutional Rights Union was founded back in about 1995, 1996 by former members of the Reagan administration, his Attorney General Edwin Meese, and also Robert Carlson, who is the author of his welfare reform legislation and agenda. And what they wanted to do was have an organization that would meet an organization like the ACLU on this ideological battlefield and confront them. And that's what we seek to do. We seek to stress constitutional rights, not this amorphous, nebulous thing called civil liberties, which is basically the ideological agenda of the progressive socialist left. So please visit us at theacru.org, and support us, because we're on the front lines fighting against the ACLU. And that's why we started the Defender Initiative, because if the ACLU is going after sheriffs for doing the right thing constitutionally, we need to stand with those sheriffs.
There's still so much work to be done and not enough years in one presidential term to do it all. May God bless the president's work. Colonel Allen West, thank you for your time and insights today.
My pleasure, Hayden. Thanks for having me. God bless.
I'm Hayden Ludwig, and this is the Restoration Spotlight Podcast, a project of Restoration News, your source of headline-smashing investigative journalism for the America First movement. Check us out at restoration-news.com. Until next time, stay vigilant and trust in God.